Time now for Down to the Wire here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Welcome. Thursday night, we have football. It's on Amazon Prime, but we have football tonight. The Chargers and the Chiefs coming up at 8:20. So still a few hours away from Arrowhead Stadium. And the Chiefs favored by 4 over the Chargers. All the best bet for that game coming up in moments, in mere moments. I don't know how long a moment is, but in mere moments. Joe Osborne, the host of Chasing That Paper, he will join us coming up in a few minutes as well to go over his contest picks. He's in the Circa Millions. I'm in the Westgate Superbook. We each went 3-2 last week. So not a 5-0, but also not an 0-5. So, still decent, 60%. And Joe's got his 5 picks. I have my 5 picks against the spread. We'll go over those coming up. And also Patrick Everson, Vegas Insider's reporter on the ground. He will tell us where the money's going tonight. I'm going to guess Kansas City, but he's going to tell us where the tickets are at, the money's at, and also for the games in week 2 of the NFL. But before we get to all of that, it's time for today's Handicapper Heat Check, presented by VegasInsider.com, your home for the best expert picks in the business since 1997. And today we recognize Vince Akins, who we had on the show last week. And Vince, very good handicapper. He can be found on Twitter at SB Breakers. Vince destroyed books last week, going 10-0, 10-0 college football Saturday. And he followed that up with an 8-2 NFL week 1. You get Vince's Thursday night football winner, or sign up for his all-access subscription by visiting VegasInsider.com/picks. That's your handicapper heat check. Stay hot, bettors. So looking forward to what Vince has got there. Now I will give you my best bet for the night. And I'm going to go with the LA Chargers. I'm going to take the points with them. Now, a couple things on this game. Number one, Keenan Allen is out. We know that. All right. So injuries are going to happen. The Chiefs, I know that we'll talk about this with Joe coming up. The Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker, is out, which is a tough one because he's got a big leg and you're taking away these long field goals now. If Patrick Mahomes gets shut down, so you have these long field goals now the Chiefs have to kick, and they'll go to a kicker they don't really trust. Also, here's a wacky trend. I don't know if it applies. I mean, it should apply, but as far as just if you believe in these things, the last 7 years in week 2, Thursday night football, the underdog is covered 7 times, 7-0 ATS. Now, they're 5-2 straight up. The 2 losers actually came the last 2 years. The Bengals 2 years ago in Joe Burrow's rookie year at Cleveland. He had a huge game, and the Bengals got a backdoor cover and covered as a dog. And last year, the Giants covered against Washington on Washington got a last-second field goal to beat them. So 7-0 ATS, week 2 underdogs, Thursday night football. It's been a pretty good trend the last 7 years, so that also helps. And I think Justin Herbert steps up. Brandon Staley, big game for him, too, as head coach after he botched up that game on the Thursday night last year. So they got Thursday night again this year with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we get our friend Joe Osborne chasing that paper, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Fridays on Vegas Insider. All right, we did not call each other to match, but I will say this, though. If you look at my shirt, you can't see it because it's blocked by the microphone. Biff Tannen's Pleasure Paradise, Back to the Future 2. Joe Osborne is wearing his Apollo Creed shirt, Apollo Training Club.
1982.
So, I like it for a couple reasons. One, because you said Apollo, not only he lost, but the way he lost, he died. So that's a terrible way to lose. It's one thing to lose and then just get up and go home, but the way your final loss was death.
Yeah, that's like an all-time arrogant sports move. We often see arrogance in sports all the time and insane quotes, and you see it in the fight game from time to time. But Apollo Creed, who was clearly past his time, decides to step in there against the much younger, the much taller Russian, who was heavily on steroids, Kevin. They should have agreed to some type of steroid testing prior to that fight. And as a result of his arrogance, he died in the ring, Kevin. So, as a result of that, you kind of have to look down on Apollo Creed a little bit, right?
I mean, you don't see a lot of athletes that their last, you say a last at bat, you strike out. Your last game, maybe you throw an interception. His last boxing match ended in death. So it really, was a tough way to go for Apollo. But his son, though, carried the family name. And to skip ahead to Creed 2, he defeated Drago's son, so he got a little revenge. Not a lot. Dad didn't come back, but he got a little revenge in Creed 2.
Yeah, that was an awesome storyline, and I'm very excited to hear that Creed 3 is, I think it's filming right now, or potentially it's wrapped, and Michael B. Jordan is directing. Apparently, Rocky might not be in it, though. Like, there was something at the end of Creed 2, and Rocky said Sylvester Stallone said he might be done with the series. That would be a significant disappointment if Rocky is not in the movie. So I hope that's not true. So I wonder if he'll fight Mr. T's son, perhaps, in Creed 3 here.
Well, now that we've gotten the 80s movie talk all out of the way, let's get to our contest picks, Joe.
Yes.
And last week you went 3-2, I went 3-2. So far so good. I mean, I know people are 5-0, but you can only, do as much as you can. All right, let's look at our picks for this week. And interestingly enough, you and I have 10 different games. We have no competing games. We don't have the same picks in any games. So I'm going to start with you. And your first selection, what is it?
I like the Green Bay Packers -10, Kevin. So in terms of a bounce back spot or a get right spot, this is absolutely as good as it gets in the sport. So very ugly performance there for the Green Bay Packers. Oh, the sky is falling. These receivers can't catch a ball. Let me bring you back to last season, week 1, Kevin. The Packers got absolutely destroyed 38-3 on the road in New Orleans. So how did they respond to that? Week 2, they return home to Lambeau Field and they destroyed the Detroit Lions by 18 points. Now all of a sudden we have the Chicago Bears feeling pretty good about themselves, rolling into town. And this is an absolutely horrible spot for them. Green Bay will have matchup advantages all over the field. They have 5 straight double-digit wins over Chicago. Green Bay has 13 straight regular season wins at home. This is an absolute thing of beauty here. Green Bay's offense might not need to do a whole lot. Everyone wants to talk about how great this defense is. Well, the Chicago Bears offense absolutely stinks. Their offensive line is brutal. Fields has no one to throw to, and Fields might not be very good himself. So, the Packers might win this game 13-0, but I like them to cover the 10 points here.
I actually like Green Bay in the survivor pool this week. I have them. Move. I think that, take away points. Green Bay's owned them. Aaron Rodgers has owned them. The Packers almost made the cut for me, Joe, just because the Bears were awful last week until Justin Fields had that 50-yard bomb he threw down the sidelines, down 10-0 in the muck at Soldier Field, and got them back in the game. And you look at Fields' numbers, he didn't really do anything against San Francisco. It's just Trey Lance wasn't good after they had that 10-point lead. So I do like the Packers there in that spot. I'm actually going to go with another double-digit favorite here, Joe, and I'm going to take the Denver Broncos. No matter what people said about what we saw Monday night against Seattle, and both you and I talked about this before the show, that was the Seahawks Super Bowl on Monday night against the Broncos. Russell Wilson back home. Mm-hmm. Denver, you know what? 2 fumbles inside, not the red zone, inside the 5. They were going in, and they didn't score. I know Seattle had a 4th and inches that Geno Smith kind of botched up early in the game that would have given Seattle a good opportunity to score again. But we know about what happened on the final drive, the 64-yard field goal where maybe Russell Wilson should have had the opportunity to get a first down and get the field goal a little closer. But Denver had more than 200 yards than Seattle in that game. It was 150 or 200. They outgained them. I think Denver comes back this week and plays well against Houston. The Texans had a 20-3 lead against the Colts, and Indianapolis came back, tied it, and then it ended up being a tie, but the Colts had a shot in overtime to win, missed a field goal. But Houston got outgained big time in that game. That was a nice job by the Texans last week, but I think after blowing that lead, it's going to be tough to go to Denver, Mile High, all of it. I think the Broncos, they have a very good shot to blow out the Texans this week, Joe. So that's my first pick. What is your second pick for your contest this week?
Yeah, we got a run of underdogs here coming up, starting with the Saints +2.5. When I saw this line, I assumed that, hey, maybe this game's in Tampa Bay. It's not. The Saints are at home, and I think that there's a pretty strong case that they might be the better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this line is based on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the past. You see that injury report, that wide receiver group, which is already a suspect, already beat up. We know about the offensive line, and Tampa Bay's offense. Yeah, they had their way with Dallas, but dig into the stats, they were pretty underwhelming in that game. Not very good in the red zone, just 5 of 14 on third down. Now they're going up against one of the top defenses in the NFL that sacked Tom Brady 7 times in the 2 games last season. And of course, we know the last 4 regular season matchups between these teams, New Orleans won all 4 games, and 2 of them, one of those games, they held them to 3 points, and another one, they shut them out, Kevin. So I also think that this Saints offense could be a problem, that 3-headed attack at wide receiver. I think that's going to be more of a story as the season develops. So I like the Saints here at home, plus 2.5.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Joe, to see, with all the problems Tom Brady has had against Tampa or against New Orleans. He beat them in the playoffs, but 0-4 in the regular season. They had that 9-0 loss at home last year. They lost on Halloween. He's had some bad throws late in the Superdome. So interesting to see what Tampa Bay does in their second consecutive road game. I'm going to look at Tom Brady's former team as my second pick and take the New England Patriots laying 2 against Pittsburgh. And you say, what? The Patriots looked awful last week against the Dolphins. Mac Jones had a good first drive, threw the pick, and then they did nothing else the rest of the game. But on the flip side, I'll say this, and I know, Joe, you're a huge Dolphin fan, but the Dolphins had only 1 offensive touchdown. That was on the 4th and 7 where Tua hit Jalen Waddle over the middle and busted that for the touchdown. That the Patriots, they did nothing offensively. Defensively, it wasn't too bad. I know Tua made some big throws in the game, but with this Pittsburgh team off that huge win over Cincinnati, TJ Watt is out for a while with that pec tear that he suffered last week. They had 5 takeaways against Cincinnati and still almost lost in overtime. I think this line tells us a lot. As long as, I saw Mac Jones, he wasn't feeling well today. Hopefully he feels well by Sunday. But I do like New England here on the road. That line tells me a lot. I'm going to take the Patriots against the Steelers as my second pick. So I guess I'll segue into the Dolphins. I know you have them at Baltimore.
Yeah, I like the under in that game, 40.5 between the Patriots and Steelers, by the way. They combined to score 20 points in regulation in week 1, those 2 teams. And the Steelers got significantly outplayed by the Bengals in that game. If you dig into the stats, they got very lucky. 5 turnovers, 2 missed kicks, including an extra point that got blocked. They should have lost that game. Anyhow, yeah, my third best bet here, Kevin, I'm going to go with my Miami Dolphins at plus 3.5. I think there's a pretty good case for them up in Baltimore to at least keep this game close. So what did we see last season when these teams played? Baltimore came into Miami on a Thursday night, and they lost 22-10. Miami's defense did a fantastic job in that game. They held them to 4.3 yards per play. They kept Lamar from doing anything too spectacular. And hey, Miami's offense is getting all the spotlight here and leading up to the season, even week 1, Tua, Tyreek Hill, 2 polarizing guys. But this defense is full of playmakers, and that was on full display in week 1 against the Patriots. There's two different types of turnovers. There's a quality forced turnover, and then there's lucky ones. I would say that they forced a couple high-quality turnovers, some real playmakers there in week 1 for the Dolphins defense. And then a little bit of promise here for the Dolphins. We saw that play that they scored the big touchdown on. The Dolphins didn't have that big play ability last season, and we saw that. It was just one play, but it's something, a little bit of promise, I think. And don't forget, going back to last season, Miami's 9-1 in their last 10 games, so I think that they can keep this one close, Kevin. It might be a field goal game. I hope that they get the W, but I think that they can at least get the cover with that hook on the 3.
That Thursday night game, Joe, that was the first time last year it felt like Lamar was really bottled up, that he didn't, that Dolphins defense is very good and they got a late defensive touchdown too. But it felt like after that first drive, Baltimore kicked a field goal and then they just did nothing. And Lamar couldn't do anything against that defense. And that was the game in which Tua came in for Jacoby Brissett after he had the finger injury. But they did enough, and you wonder if it's going to happen again. The only thing is Dolphins have struggled in Baltimore over the years. But again, that's Adam Gase and some other guys, so I don't want to put that on Mike McDaniel and Tua necessarily. So for my my next pick, my 4th pick, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. They are getting points against the Giants. And last year when these teams played, Sam Darnold was starting, and Carolina was laying 3, and the Giants blew him out. Now the Giants are laying 2 with Baker Mayfield. You can't tell me Baker Mayfield is that much worse than Sam Darnold. If they're even, then it's still good value here. And the Giants off that win over Tennessee. I know that Joe had the Giants and the points last week as one of his contest picks. It was a very good pick. The Giants need that 2-point conversion late to win. Tennessee missed a field goal at the end. But I just think here now the Giants all of a sudden laying points. The Cowboys on deck Monday night. And I just don't. The Giants have not been a good home team. That's one thing I've noticed about them over the years. And now you're laying points with them. Carolina still had a shot. They were winning late in that game against Cleveland, and the Browns kicked that long field goal. Baker probably got that out of his system, the game playing or the revenge game against Cleveland. But I think here, just looking at this matchup last year and now this time around, Carolina's getting points. I don't think these teams are that far off. I'm going to take the points with Carolina as my fourth pick. So, Joe, what is your final pick?
I actually have two more to go here, Kevin.
Oh, did I lose count?
You don't have your calculator handy.
No, I stopped counting.
It is getting late, but yeah, I like the Vikings +2 here on Monday night, and this isn't a stat-heavy breakdown by any means. Like, we don't really have a whole lot to go off of. We're just 1 week into the season. But yeah, I like the Vikings +2 on Monday night in Philadelphia versus the Eagles. So let's see what the Eagles can do versus an actual good team. And I think the Vikings do qualify as a good team this season. So the Eagles last season, they went 0-6 versus other teams that made the playoffs, also lost to the Chargers. So they did a pretty good job of padding their record and their perception against some very bad teams, just like they did in week 1 when they beat up on the Lions. That game wasn't as close as the final score indicated. But now they get a Vikings team coming into town, some pretty good energy, some good momentum coming off a gigantic win at home where they easily beat the Packers. I think that they should have beat them by a lot more in that game. So the Vikings, as we know, a team that typically keeps these games close. So I'll take the Vikings to give them a game and cover the 2 points there.
All right, that sounds good. Monday night, Minnesota and Philly. Yes, Joe, I'm going to put in 5 picks this week, not 4. So I got 2 more picks. Lost track of them. My next pick, Joe, is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to take them on the road to Jacksonville. And I know Jacksonville, they've owned Indianapolis at home over the years. For whatever reason, it's a house of horrors for the Colts, no matter who the quarterback is, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck. It doesn't matter. The Colts have really struggled in Jacksonville. But a couple things here. So the Colts are laying 7 against Houston. They're laying 4, actually, or now 3.5 in the contest. I know it's 4 at other spots, but in the contest, 3.5 against Jacksonville. I don't see where Houston is that much worse than Jacksonville. I really don't believe that's the case. Houston beat Jacksonville twice last year. Also, the Colts played better late in that game against Houston last week, and I mentioned they missed the field goal in overtime. They came back and tied it. Totally outgained the Texans in that game. I think you have the better quarterback here, Matt Ryan. Jonathan Taylor's an MVP candidate in the backfield. Indianapolis, just a better team. Kansas City on deck at home. I can't get this out of my head. Jacksonville 6-36 their last 42 games, especially that loss to Washington last week. They were down. They came back, took the lead, and then Washington came back and beat them. I want to trust Jacksonville as a double-digit dog. And I said last week I wouldn't mind taking Jacksonville in this spot as a dog after the Washington game and seeing the Colts play a second straight road game. But I can't trust this Jacksonville team. I can't do it. And I think Indianapolis will get it right here after their tie against Houston. And also, we know the bad history in Jacksonville, but you have a new quarterback in Matt Ryan. I think that they get it done this week. So I'll take the Colts as my 4th pick. And Joe, now what is your final pick?
Yeah, just to comment on that one really quickly. I have the Colts on a money line parlay. I think they're being significantly undervalued in that game. And those teams played in week 18 of last season. The Colts were favored by 14 points. Now, I know they ended up losing that game, but I think they're being undervalued. That week 1 game against the Texans, they outgained them by about 200 yards, over 200 yards, I think, actually. So, yeah, I'm on board with you there. I'm going to go with another big favorite here and what I view as another great bounce back spot. I like the Rams -10 with the Falcons in town. So some overreactions to the one game. Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing for the Rams, but it's not like they got beat by the Chicago Bears. It was the team that's favored to win the Super Bowl that beat them in week 1. And a couple stats that I love here, Kevin. So teams in week 2 who played in the season opener, So in week 2, they're going to have 3 additional days rest compared to their opponent. In that spot since 2011, 16-4 against the spread. The Rams are also good under Sean McVay after a loss, 16-9-1 against the spread. And the Falcons are a team that got their ass kicked a lot last season. They had double-digit losses in 8 separate games. So I like the Rams to absolutely just blow the doors off the Falcons in this game in Los Angeles here on Sunday.
The Falcons, Joe, I feel like it's the same thing. The Falcons and Texans are in the same spot. I mean, the Texans didn't lose, but they had these big leads. They blew them. They're not very good teams. I don't know how they get up for the next game now as a heavy dog on the road. So, Arthur Smith, the coach of Atlanta, he could say whatever he wants, but that was a terrible loss losing to New Orleans. And I got to go out west against a Rams team that will be totally motivated off that Bills defeat. Actually, embarrassing loss on national TV. Everyone watched that game. So, that's going to be a tough one, I think, for Atlanta on Sunday. Now, my 5th pick, I know you got to swallow this one. I'm going to take the points with Dallas. You know what? You see this swing. Last Sunday, Dallas was laying 2.5. Dak gets hurt. All this happens. All of a sudden, they're a 7-point dog. I get Cooper Rush is the quarterback, but a couple things here. Number one, Cooper Rush came in for Dak Prescott last year at Minnesota, the Sunday night game, led them to a victory as a road dog. Also, 2020, say what you will, Dallas was 3-0 against the spread, 2-1 straight up as a home underdog in games Dak Prescott did not play in. It was 2 games with Andy Dalton and I think one, the Garrett Gilbert game against the Steelers where they were up 13-0, getting 14. Pittsburgh came back and beat them, but they beat the 49ers. They beat the Eagles as a home dog. I just think that everyone is looking at Dak not being there. Oh, my God, they weren't winning with Dak. They were terrible with him last week against Tampa Bay. And on the flip side with Cincinnati, I don't want to say I don't like this Bengal team, but I think that they're getting way overvalued because they were in the Super Bowl. And, they're not going to turn the ball over 5 times again, chances are. But Dallas still held Tom Brady in check for the most part. A lot of field goals last week for the Bucs. Just the Cowboys couldn't score any touchdowns. I just think that I can't pass this up. Getting 7 points with Dallas, the swing is just too much here with all these points and seeing Cincinnati lose. Oh, they're going to come back and win. Why? Why do I think that now Burrow, who has not been this heavy of a favorite that often on the road in a tough atmosphere in Dallas, I'm taking the points for the Cowboys. So those are my 5 picks. And I bounced some around, Joe. I looked at Arizona, but I couldn't trust them. I know Kyler Murray has been a good, or Kingsbury rather, has been a really good road underdog. The other one I like too, tell me your thoughts on this really quick. Washington and Detroit. I kind of like the Commanders, but I see why. The Lions are favored. You haven't seen them favored in a few years. I kind of like the Commanders, but I couldn't pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. That's a stay away from me. I like the under on that. I think it's at 49.5, and both of those teams have such a low floor for scoring. If you look at the amount of times each team scored under 20 points per game last season, that really stands out. But the Commanders, it's almost like they tried to give away that game on multiple occasions to the Jaguars in week 1. And then we saw the heroics of Carson Wentz. He came back and saved the day. But there's a lot of good options out there. I'll be curious to see how the Seahawks game goes. Plus 8.5. That was the ultimate game in week 1, Monday Night Football, for them to get up for. So you wonder if it's a emotional letdown type spot for them playing against San Francisco. But a lot of good spots on the board here, Kevin. We each went 3-2 in week 1. We got to start stacking up these 4-1s and 5-0s, though, if we want to finish in the money here, right?
That's the biggest problem is that 3-2 is great, in theory, but there are guys that go 5-0 and you're like, shit, I can't go 5-0 every week. It's impossible. But I'll tell you something. Washington was the swing game for me last week, Joe, because I was about to be 2-3. I had at one point, I had the Patriots, dumb pick, whatever, it didn't work out. But San Francisco up 10-0, Washington up 14-3, Steelers up big, Texans up big. I'm like, I'm 4-1. I'm in good shape. All of a sudden, the Justin Fields thing happened. Chicago's back in the game. Jacksonville rallied. I'm like, shit, now I'm going to go 2-3. And then it turned out that Washington came back. So 3-2, not great. But I feel like in this contest, you can't be any worse than 3-2 any week.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of luck involved here. How
Yeah.
many of these games are going to come down to a final kick or something silly happens in overtime or the Cincinnati Bengals turning it over 5 times? There's luck involved with this. We all know this. You can look at every single stat and everything can add up on paper, but there can be an injury. There can be something with the weather. But like I often say, luck goes both ways in sports betting, Kevin. I had the Bengals on a teaser in week 1. All they need to do is kick that extra point. It gets blocked. All they need to do was kick that 29-yarder in overtime. He shanked it, and I lost. So some bad luck there, but I'm owed some luck. I hope it finds me here this week.
Joe Osborne, you can find him on Twitter at JTFOZ. Also
Yes,
chasing
sir.
that paper, 11 a.m. He's back tomorrow on Vegas Insider, 11 a.m. Eastern. So you can find it there. Joe, thank you as always, and we'll talk to you next week. Best of luck with the contest picks, and let's hope for a 4-1 or 5-0.
Yes, sir. Good luck to you, Kevin, and good luck to everyone watching.
All right, that is Joe Osborne, and you can catch him again tomorrow chasing that paper at 11 a.m. right here on Vegas Insider. Patrick Everson is joining us in just a moment. We'll get to Patrick in a second to look at where the money's going for Chargers Chiefs. But before we get to that, I want to say about BetMGM. And BetMGM, they're our new best friends. We love BetMGM, and you can kick off the new pro football season with the king of sportsbooks. Sign up with BetMGM using the bonus code VIBONUS, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. That's VI bonus, all one word, no spaces, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions, and it is only available in the following states: Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, Wyoming, and Ontario. Must be 21 years or older to wager. BetMGM, they are the king of sportsbooks. All right. We'll give you our baseball best bet right now. Let's do it now before we get to Patrick Everson. Miami Marlins tonight because they play in like 15 minutes. So let's get to that really fast. I'm taking the Marlins tonight against the Phillies. Pablo Lopez, he struggled of late for Miami. He was racked his last outing. I think the Marlins are 1-7 his last 8 starts, but he did shut down the Phillies earlier this season. Marlins can't score. They put up 2 runs so far in the series against the Phillies. Noah Syndergaard, he starts for Philadelphia. He beat Sandy Alcantara last time he faced Miami, and now he's favored on the road. This number has dropped. I'm going to go with the Marlins here to beat the Phillies. That game's starting in just a little bit, so we'll sneak that one in as our Major League Baseball best bet here on this Thursday night. All right, time now for Patrick Everson. We love talking to him, and he is – hold on. Where are you at now, Patrick? I want to guess.
I am at the Bellagio. Speaking of the king of sportsbooks, I am at Bellagio tonight.
Nice. Is there going to be any Ocean's 11 stuff going on while you're there or not?
Not that I'm aware of, but you never know. It is Las Vegas. Anything can happen.
So Patrick Everson, he is with us at Vegas Insider, and he's on the ground. That's where he is at. We say he's on the ground at the sports books. What is going on with the Chiefs and Chargers tonight? We know a lot of money on Kansas City, but what breakdown do you have for the game tonight?
Well, first off, obviously it's a really popular game. It's going to be a very well bet game. It'll be on par with probably any of the week 1 matchups because you've got a lot of hype surrounding the Chargers and Justin Herbert. And as every year, there's plenty of hype and public backing for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and so forth. I will say from multiple books early in the week, when this opened at 3, there were sharp bettors getting in on Kansas City early. So if you didn't get in early, you're not getting the best of the number. I think I don't know if it's a consensus 4.5, but it's 4s and 4.5 pretty much everywhere now on the Chiefs. So, and again, it was sharp play at multiple books that helped drive that number up. I think it's sitting 4 here now at BetMGM. It might be 4.5. It's been toggling back and forth over this last hour or so as we get closer to kickoff. But the Chiefs, obviously, if they got some sharp money early, they're going to get public money late. So it's all Chargers. One odds maker, Andy Morrissey with WinBet just a little bit ago said we're going to need the Chargers in every which way in this game. And that speaks to multiple sportsbooks. They're not just talking about the spread. They're talking about, they're hammering the Chiefs money line too. They're all over the Chiefs money line. And you know how this goes, Joe, especially with the public. The public is going to be on Chiefs and over in the parlays. So that's going to be an issue. They're going to be on Chiefs money line and over in the parlays and so forth. So, not really a teasable number for the Chiefs, or at least not an advisable teasable number for the Chiefs. But in every other way, WynnBET's going to need the Chiefs or need the Chargers tonight, and that's pretty much the same dynamic here at BetMGM. I'll have a report up on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed in a little bit here, a video report from the book talking about the very latest on this game from BetMGM's perspective. But I can tell you, they are rooting for the Chargers in all ways.
And I'm guessing, Patrick, the over is going to be popular. You have Mahomes, 5 touchdowns last week. Herbert can sling it. That everyone's thinking there's going to be a lot of points, even though the quick comeback from Sunday to Thursday, not necessarily you would think be the case. But last year, you had the overtime game in L.A., high-scoring game. So a lot of people are going to bang the over tonight.
Yeah, I think they're going to bang the over. Like you said, you got that, the Chiefs put up a ton of points against the Cardinals, obviously. And a decent amount of points went up in not anything huge, but a decent amount of points in the Chargers-Raiders game. I think I did see an interesting stat earlier today, though. Actually, my buddy Matt Jacob, I think it was something he retweeted. He's in the sports betting content space here in Vegas, and I think it was something on the lines of Thursday night games with totals above 54 are 7-1 to the under, which is it's a small a small sample size. Because it's 54 is a pretty big number, but it was something along those lines, run into the under, which is interesting. But again, you've got 2 really good quarterbacks and potentially dynamic offenses. Mahomes was on five touchdowns last week, so the bettors are definitely going to be on the over in this game. Jason Scott with BetMGM, who again I'll have a report from his perspective and others behind the counter at BetMGM in just a little bit on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed, but. He told me a little bit earlier that it's definitely they have significant liability to the over in this game, and I don't think he expects it to get any smaller as we get closer to kickoff.
Going to Sunday, Patrick, you have 3 heavy favorites at home coming off losses: the Rams, the Broncos, and the Packers. And a lot of the public, I think, will be on those teams. Is that what you're seeing and what you're hearing, that those 3 teams after the losses, that people just want to jump all over them and they'll be popular in parlays and teasers as well?
I think they probably will be. I'm going back to look at just from a little earlier today. I got a sampling of splits from DraftKings on all these games, and we're talking. I think you mentioned the Rams off the top. Obviously, they lose week 1 at home to the Buffalo Bills. They got to come back in week 2, and I'm just scrolling through my games here to find the matchup, and I'm not sure why it's not showing up for me. Kevin, hang on, I'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, and did you mention the Raiders among that batch and the Broncos?
Well, I would say Packers, Rams, yes. And Broncos.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Packers. Because, and I got this from a couple of books, an update a little earlier today, and now I'm looking at it again now, because the Packers have touched 10 a couple of times. I'm not sure if they're looking 10 right now. You probably got something in front of you, but they've touched 10 a couple of times, and I can tell you at DK, it's actually the Bears getting significantly more tickets, like in the 3-1 range, and a little bit of a majority of the money with that number out to double digits now. So I think that's kind of interesting. But I think the public is going to, as we get, look, it's Thursday. We all know the money for these games, especially for the Sunday night football game, these primetime games. It's day of, it's in the hour leading up to kickoff and so forth. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that shift significantly in favor of the Packers. My Denver Broncos, they're not getting a lot of love at DK at this point, even though people expect the Texans to be bad. The Texans, squeak out, or I should say the Colts really ended up squeaking out the tie with the Texans in week 1. And obviously that surprised everybody, but it looks, at DK, at DraftKings right now, it looks like the bulk of tickets and money, not a huge bulk, but the bulk of tickets and money on the Texans in that game on the road against Denver. So I think people maybe were a little more turned off by that Monday night performance than perhaps we anticipated.
What is
I was turned off by it. I thought it was awful.
Well, I actually like the Broncos this week, Patrick. I think they bounce back. I don't think Houston's very good, and I think Denver had so many chances Monday night that they'll rebound. A lot of people are down on Hackett, and with Russell Wilson, like they had 2 fumbles inside the 5. So I think they'll bounce back coming up this week against Houston. Now, what is the biggest slanted, or who slanted the most? I feel like it's the Bengals this week against the Cowboys with Dak out. Is that the biggest one of all the games where everyone's going to be on Cincinnati?
I think so. And what are we looking at? We're looking at 7s and 7.5s right now. Is that right? Maybe some, 7. it's really interesting because this is really tilted. Like I'm looking at DraftKings numbers right now, and it's like 5-1, 6-1 tickets and money. And again, we remind it's midweek Thursday. It's a small pot at this point, but of that sample size, it's heavy to the Bengals here in tickets and money on the spread. And I know that's the case at multiple books. And I heard something that hopefully your listeners and viewers find interesting. On Sunday night, as this was all being recalibrated after the Dak injury news got out and odds makers were trying to figure out what they were going to do when they went back up Monday morning, I heard from one really respected odds maker who talked to another very respected odds maker. So it was secondhand, but between two really respected odds makers here in Las Vegas. One odds maker was honestly thinking about opening Bengals -10. Such was his concern that he would not be able to get Dallas money at anything lower than that. Now, I mean, I think that sounds crazy because remember, this game opened Cowboys -2 before the Sunday night game. And then it went all the way to 7, 7.5. Some places touched 8 on Monday, Tuesday, as the lines went back up and people came in early on the Bengals. But, to that odds maker's point, he might be right. I mean, you're talking 85% of tickets and money early in the week on the Bengals. It could get tough. They may have to go up a little bit more. They're down to 7, but, a lot of tickets and money on the Bengals. They may have to go back up to 8 and maybe beyond. Maybe 8 is the resistance point, but they might have to go beyond that if it keeps coming in the way it is on the Bengals.
Yeah, it's crazy just to see that number swing as much as it did. We know how valuable Dak is, but my God, like that's just a crazy thing. And also the Bengals coming off 5 turnovers against Pittsburgh. Speaking of the Steelers, Patrick, the line that's the most curious to me this week is the Patriots laying 2 at Pittsburgh. Sure. We know TJ Watt is out. But how surprised are you that much respect given to New England, considering they did not look very sharp against Miami? And yeah, the Steelers came off a good win. They had some fortunate things go their way. But how surprised are you to see the Steelers as a home dog this week?
I think I'm a little surprised. And one of the reasons why is, and I think I mentioned this, I might have mentioned this earlier this week, but there's a sharp bettor I'm talking to here in Vegas pretty regularly, pretty smart guy. And he told me like a month ago, Kevin, that he's like, look, the Patriots are an auto bet against for me all season. I don't think that's going to be a good team. And I don't think he doesn't have an opinion on this week's game, but he certainly has an opinion on the Patriots, fortunes this season. He went heavy against them. He got in early on Miami -2.5 for week 1. And obviously that one got there for him, but he just doesn't feel good about the Patriots at all. And I will tell you, at least from what, early on, although the Patriots are a modest road favorite here, the tickets and money seem to, at least at DraftKings, the numbers I'm looking at right now, the tickets and money are definitely favoring Pittsburgh. Midweek this week. At least one book, and I would guess a couple of others. I think a few people are kind of surprised that the Patriots are laying points on the road there.
Final one I'll go over with you, Patrick. Monday night, the Bills and the Titans in Buffalo. Sure. And we saw Buffalo look like world beaters against the Rams in week 1. We talked last Thursday, and the Bills was the right side, it turned out. And now they got Tennessee, who's coming off that close loss to the Giants. And Tennessee beat Buffalo last year, in fact, on Monday night. So now they're facing off on Monday night again. And I feel like the Titans, a lot of disrespect for them, but are people just going to be all on the Buffalo side this week? Monday night, you have 2 games. You have Vikings, Eagles also going against it. But are people going to be jumping all over the Bills just kind of regardless until they fall back to earth a little bit?
I think they probably will. John Murray at the Superbook told me on Sunday night for the opening line report, and that it's an evolving odds and action report that's up on Vegas Insider right now for the NFL Week 2 games. But I kick it off Sunday night by talking about the opening lines with John Murray at the Superbook. And he said right out of the gate, the Bills spread was taking more tickets and money than any other side of NFL Week 2 right out of the gate. I'm sure that's the case at the Superbook and everywhere else throughout the week. Looking at DraftKings, literally up to the minute splits right now. You've got tickets 2-1 and money 4-1 on Buffalo at this stage of the week. And again, we remind, it's probably a small pot, and also the money could be skewed. Maybe somebody came in with a really large play on Buffalo, and that's maybe skewing that ratio a little bit. But look, everybody's been on Buffalo for months now in the futures bets, Super Bowl, season win totals, player props such as MVP and so forth. So, and they were on them last week. The book definitely needed the Rams in week 1. So it's probably not a surprise, but again, John Murray indicated right out of the gate they were on Buffalo. He said they're going to be the most bet, probably the most bet side this week. Primetime game Monday night certainly adds to that. if the favorites have a good day Sunday, everything's going to run to the Bills on Monday night. I'll tell you that. Parlays, moneyline parlays, teasers, everybody's going to throw Buffalo in there.
You can find Patrick on Twitter at @PatrickE_Vegas. Patrick does a great job covering the Vegas scene, where the money's going. He talks to the odds makers, talks to the sharp bettors. And Patrick, again, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you on Monday for the double. Well, it's not a double header because the games are going against each other. I don't call it double header. There's 2 games going on. But Patrick, where else can people find your work at Vegas Insider?
Like I said, the NFL, especially this time of year, the NFL and college news pages. Right now, we've got, like I said, the NFL Week 2 odds and action report. It updates all the way through the Monday night games. Same with the college football. We got a bunch of Saturday games in that report. That'll update all day long Saturday, through Saturday. I'm updating it, every other day basically until game day, and then those update all day long. So keep an eye on those. You can get up to the minute information. All
right, Patrick, great work. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Absolutely. Have a great Thursday night.
All right, that is Patrick Everson right there, and love talking to Patrick. And that Buffalo thing is amazing. How I get it. Like, I understand. We saw what the Bills did to the Rams. They destroyed them. And I just think Tennessee's getting a little disrespected. And I know A.J. Brown is gone. He's off to Philadelphia. Tannehill doesn't have a lot of guys to throw to. You still have Derrick Henry. But Tennessee has played well against Buffalo, though. They have. And they beat them last year at home. It's a lot of points, especially coming off a loss as a home favorite. Now they're getting a ton against Buffalo. I think they got a good shot to at least hang in that game. All right, before we exit here, I want to tell you about a cool thing at Vegas Insider. If you love what we do at Vegas Insider, guess what? You're going to want to check out our brand new Vegas Insider app. We've got up-to-date, easy-to-navigate odds for every major sport. Also, we have our latest shows, best bet videos and podcasts, props, trends, futures, news. All of it is on the free Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on Apple or Android devices. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app, and it's really cool. I have it on my phone, and you not only get the odds, but also you can get props. You look at tonight for the NFL, like Major League Baseball, you can find all the strikeout props and total bases, runs batted in, things like that. And for the NFL, you can find the props as well. So not just the odds, but also the props too, which is really, really cool. So check it out today, and you can download it at either Apple or Android, the Vegas Insider app. All right, so another good show in the books here on this Thursday night. Not a very strong baseball card this evening. A couple games that we'll just tell you about. There are a couple finals from today. You had the White Sox. They dominated the Guardians. Lance Lynn was fantastic. He's been really good for the White Sox of late. That makeup game, the White Sox dominate Cleveland 8-2. Also, Shane McClanahan, who was in the Cy Young conversation before he got hurt. It's either Justin Verlander or Dylan Cease at this point. Dylan Cease lost last night to the Rockies. Verlander's coming back to the Astros. But Shane McClanahan, an 11-0 win for the Rays today against the Blue Jays, and they were a dog today. So good luck there for Tampa Bay. And coming up in just a little bit, Pirates and the Mets. The Pirates just swept the Reds, and the Mets were swept by the Cubs. And the Mets were huge favorites in all those games. And guess what? The Mets are laying 255, 260 with Carlos Carrasco tonight. JT Brubaker starts for Pittsburgh. The Reds, who were not good in that series, they're a heavy dog tonight against Miles Mikolas and the Cardinals. And the Cardinals coming off a tough series with the Brewers. Still St. Louis leading the NL Central, but Cardinals did beat the Brewers last night in Corbin Burns. Now they're laying 285, 290 against Cincinnati. Sean Manaea, who has struggled big time in the second half of the Padres, he takes the mound at Arizona tonight. Diamondbacks walked off past the Dodgers last night. Padres split with the Mariners. Phillies Marlins underway. I told you I had the Marlins as my best bet. And the two other games of the American League, the A's and the Astros in Houston. Lance McCullers Jr., nearly a $3 favorite in that one. And the Royals and Twins, they finish up their series. Minnesota laying 170 with Dylan Bundy on the mound against Kansas City tonight. That game's at 7:40. So you got a couple games starting. You got some action before you get to the Chargers and Chiefs at 8:20. Amazon Prime. Remember, that's where it's at. There's no more NFL Network, NBC. It's on Amazon Prime tonight if you want to catch the game. So either have Amazon Prime or find a friend that's got Amazon Prime and steal their information so you can watch the game. But Chargers, Chiefs, Kansas City laying 4 in that one should be a very entertaining game from Arrowhead Stadium. A couple of news and notes here before we get out. Number one, 15 minutes from now, 7 o'clock on our Twitter account at Vegas Insider, we have our Twitter Spaces looking ahead to the Week 2 game between Kansas City and LA. Also, tomorrow, Chasing That Paper, 11 a.m. with Joe Osborne. You can find that on our Vegas Insider TV channel on YouTube. Tomorrow, Joe Madden will be in for me, and she will be hosting Down to the Wire at 6 o'clock. Joe does a great job, so check that out tomorrow night going into the weekend. And also, we have Best Bet videos as well, a bunch of them. NFL, already we have Dolphins, Ravens, Bucks, Saints. Tonight's game, if you want to check it out, Chargers, Chiefs, my breakdown of that game. You can find it. You have less than 2 hours to do it. Packers, Bears, and then tomorrow I'm going to have out the 2 Monday games, Titans, Bills, as well as Vikings, Eagles. I also have Miami, Texas A&M in college football, Oregon, BYU, tomorrow at Penn State, Auburn, and also Brian Edwards has his college football best bets for this week. He has 3 games as well. South Carolina, Georgia, Notre Dame, Cal, Fresno State, USC. So those are his games. So a lot of games to choose from there on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider TV. And tomorrow I will have the NFL Weekend Podcast, which did pretty well last week. That'll be out again tomorrow afternoon, looking ahead to all the games in Week 2 in the NFL. So find that on our podcast channel, Vegas Insider VI Podcasts, and we'll be all set with that. So with that being said, my thanks to Joe Osborne. My thanks as well to Patrick Everson, Spencer Ray running the show as well. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, best of luck with your bets.